It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop.
Welcome to the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. And it is a special time. It is Friday night, and it is a Fair Friday. And joining me for Fair Friday, what better guy than Mike Meltser? Meltsy, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. How are you, Landry?
I'm doing great, man. Astros are in the in extra innings. They've only blown, I think, 3 leads tonight. The NBA Finals is a dead series walking, and we got plenty to talk about when it comes to the Houston Texans. So let's just hop right into it. The DeAndre Hopkins thing, it's been a popular topic. I haven't gotten your opinion on this. So I want to ask you this right now. I want to start this off for the people, and you can put your comments in. We will get to those if they're timely immediately. We'll get to them later on if they are not. But I'm going to ask Mike Meltser right off the top. Would you sign Nuke? Would you sign DeAndre Hopkins if you were the Houston Texans?
I would not. It doesn't feel like the right time and place. He's older at this point. He's over 30.
Just turned 31 this week.
Yeah, I think DeAndre still has a decent amount left in the tank. If you look at some of the advanced stats last season with Arizona, like things like yards per route run and stuff, he was still playing at a pretty high level, just a kind of a lousy situation. To me, like from DeAndre Hopkins' standpoint, you know, you've been on good football teams in Houston, then you go to Arizona in that trade, and things look good for a while in 2020, but then all of a sudden things fall off a cliff. If I'm DeAndre Hopkins, I'm where J.J. Watt was 2 years ago. I want to put myself on a contender where I have the best chance to maximize my chance to win a ring. That would be my interest. And I know it might be easy for me to say that.
Well, I don't even know if he has options to do that though at this point. So I don't.
So he has no options, Landry, to join a team that's really good unless he takes like the minimum. Is it at that level?
I mean, I don't know. Have you seen his list? We have the Tennessee Titans and we have the New England Patriots.
That is true. Is it weird? Maybe it's a timing thing, I suppose. But so Odell Beckham signs for a year and $15 million with Baltimore, a team that I wouldn't put up there like as one of like the main contenders, but they're in the second tier. So why is it that the Odell I think I would take DeAndre Hopkins over Odell Beckham. Is it a timing thing for why Beckham got the kind of money that I think Hopkins would probably take at this point? Maybe that's just timing, I suppose.
I would say timing for sure. Big time, because I do think that he's better than Baltimore. But I think Odell Beckham, I don't know what Baltimore was doing there. I don't know if they were just going over the top to satisfy Lamar Jackson. I don't know what was going on there. I know Odell and Lamar had been talking, so maybe there's some sort of overpay, but I don't think that the Odell it's not the same thing as the Deshaun Watson situation. I just don't know that that's the market. I don't blame him for like striving for it. I just don't know that that's the market, just like it's not the quarterback market for Deshaun Watson.
I'm a little confused by the reporting around the Hopkins thing. So he posted that Snapchat or the Instagram, whatever it was, where he was driving on Kirby right by the stadium. And didn't like 1 or 2 people report that he met with the Texans and that turned out
they weren't reporters. They weren't reporters. And
they weren't like real.
Yeah, and actually it was friend of the show, John Crumpler. He did that. He probably won't be on the show anymore, honestly, after that.
Wow, you're that. How about that?
Crumpy. I mean, it's gonna be a long time for me to get over that shenanigans of saying that they met with the team with my guy Crumpy. So
I mean, because I'm sitting here,
I think he's good at aggregating. I think he's good at analysis, but you know, saying he met with the Texans before he even got released, I've told him I'm not. You know how I am. Like I'm not gonna like sit there and lie to you. So you're Crumpler is not. I don't look at him the same since he did that, and I think a lot of people don't.
There was another person who reported us something very similar.
Well, Roosh just said that Hopkins said he was interested, and Roosh was told that. Like, it's very clear that Roosh is in the streets, and DeAndre Hopkins probably told him that. So if he tells you that, you're in a difficult spot. Like, you either say, okay,
That's
he
fair.
told me this or not. So I don't think Roosh like got secondhand information. I think Roosh was literally. I would bet my life that DeAndre Hopkins directly told Roosh that. So when he tells you that he's interested, you either go with it or you don't. Just like if the agent tells you, like it's kind of like a GM battle or like a source battle in journalism, which I think Jerome and Cabina, if we're playing like follow the source, I'm figuring that someone told them that. Now, a lot of times they're telling you that to jack up the market. But if the man himself is telling you, then I believe that he's telling you that. And I've heard Hopkins has told multiple people that. So I've heard that he's told a couple of people that, but they're people that would say stuff, and get the crowd hype. So I get that. But saying that he met with the squad, I can't get over that with Crumpy, be honest with you. I know that sounds dickish. I just can't. That was whack.
When it comes to players coming back to a team the second time, I wonder how many times in the NFL that actually turns out well. Like, I think about Darrelle Revis the second time with the Jets. It was kind of like, like when you're going for the past glory, I think that's a tough one. Like, the Rockets are going to face that possibly with James Harden, for unrelated reasons, I guess. This one it doesn't feel right to me at this stage, even though I understand he's still a high level player. They desperately need help at the number one receiver spot. I saw somebody made the claim that they have plenty of receivers. That is not the case. Just because you have like 15 names on the depth chart doesn't mean you're actually any good. But if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, I want to play on a contending football team. And I know it's later in the offseason, fairly late, but can he find somewhere between Buffalo, Kansas City, the Cowboys, somebody along those lines to pony up somewhat of a bag, maybe even for a year? That's what I would want if I'm DeAndre Hopkins.
And I think that would be his ideal scenario where he has to contemplate, a $3 million difference where he goes somewhere.
Yes.
On the comments, Timeout Houston says, I don't understand why Houston media doesn't want good players. I mean, I think there's more to it than, bringing in a receiver that might be past his prime when you're building and it comes to like, perfectly laid out. I think it's that simple. I got a lot of time today. Oh, you come in here a lot. Houston media or Two-Face. Hey, Landry.locker@gmail. If you want to hop in here, I'll drop you the link. I want an explanation on what that means. Because that's a huge generalization, and you're talking about Two-Face, and you're talking about with two guys that aren't Two-Face. So, I gotta. If you want to come in here and like show your face on that one, the floor is yours. Landry.locker@gmail.com. I'll drop you the link. You can explain how Houston media are Two-Face. I got time today. It's Friday. So let's just get trolling. You never know. Landry.locker@gmail.com. Bring that in, brother. I want to get an explanation on that, brother or sister.
So Landry, the sense I'm getting from you, the way you're talking is in DeAndre Hopkins' ideal world, he would end up with a team like the kind I'm talking about, but it sounds like based on what you're hearing, there may not really be a market. And so now he's sitting there thinking, okay, do I go to Tennessee?
Based on what I'm hearing, based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, Tennessee actually makes sense as far as a team needs standpoint because
100%. But they're kind of in a half-ass win now mode.
Yes, real half-ass win mode. They're in a weird spot.
It's a half-ass win now where you got one more year with Tannehill. You might be able to scrap. You might be able to like figure something out, but they're in like that half-ass win now mode. Kind of like New England, honestly, if we're being honest.
When I was on SiriusXM last Sunday and Tuesday night and I talked about Hopkins, the Patriots were the team that I raised both times. That's the one that makes a lot of sense because they need to figure out by January 2024 what they have and what they don't have in Mac Jones. And they got Gesicki in the offseason, who I like, and they added Juju, which was also good. But between like Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster, I know they drafted Boutte. Like they need more help at receiver. To me, and maybe this is me being naive, but I do not think that Bill O'Brien being the head coach and the GM of the Texans in 2020 should have anything to do with the possibility of DeAndre Hopkins ending up in New England. They have a king. That king is not Bill O'Brien. It's Bill Belichick. So to me, like, I think O'Brien, and Hopkins maybe having issues with each other should have no bearing on this situation. This situation where you have two different jobs and it's a different city.
Bill O'Brien's going to do what daddy tells him to do. I mean, Bill O'Brien's going to do what his football daddy tells him to do.
Yes.
So there's no world where Bill O'Brien's going to be able to tell Bill Belichick, no, I don't want this guy on my team. And I don't think Bill O'Brien would want that. Like, quite honestly, if I were covering the Patriots or if I were covering the Titans, then I would be down with Nick Hopkins. But in this situation, with all the receivers you have, with the type of offense you have, I don't think it's suitable for Nuke, because there's two things that have happened in every good year that Nuke has had. There's been either this offensive system, which Tennessee and New England both run, or there's been a quarterback that can improvise and they play off schedule a little bit. And the Texans don't have either one of those things. CJ Stroud is an on-schedule, polished, pocket passing type of quarterback. And DeAndre Hopkins in this situation, whether it's not practicing, whether it's not knowing the system, it's not the same as going to the Titans or going to the Patriots. Because let's be honest, like, after this season, you're going to be in like a completely different situation. Like, if you're the Texans, like, it's actually going to be kind of the same at the wide receiver position. You're only signing DeAndre Hopkins for 1 year, basically. That's kind of where you're at right now. You're signing him for 1 year. I don't think he's going to get a multi-year deal. So what are you gaining by that? What's he gaining by that?
So what you would be gaining is the ability for Stroud to walk on the field week 1, and you have viable options. And when you have, I don't know if DeAndre is like an ideal number 1 at this point, but you slot him in, and then it's like, okay, everybody slides down a level, which is nice. So Hopkins, Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Dell, Mechie, like, everything kind of fits more in its place. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not against this idea. As I mentioned, I think DeAndre Hopkins still has gas left in the tank. He is a good to very good player. He's somebody who would help this team. I'm just, my feel of it, I just don't know if this works at this stage, like where this team is kind of in this rebuild, but on the way up, and where he is, where he's older and he wants to win. I don't know if that's a match. I don't know if that's a match.
Yeah, it's not going to match. It's not. It doesn't work out. I don't get it. Still hadn't emailed. He's asking if he's better than Nico. I mean, of course he's better than Nico. But you know what Nico is? He's young. He's going to be here for 2 more years. His best ball's not behind him. He's cheap. He's not high maintenance. He tries to practice every day. He doesn't demand the rock. He doesn't demand attention. He's not going to get in the way. His mindset is proportional with what the team's mindset is. So it's not that simple. Like, this isn't Madden. I'm sure OO has a good Madden dynasty, and no, it's no disrespect, but when you make generalizations in here and you say Houston media is two-faced, then I'm going to give you a chance to explain yourself, because I want to understand what exactly that means. Like, what's two-faced? Like, am I going up to DeAndre Hopkins and like dabbing him up and saying, "Hey, bro, we really need you here," and then saying, "I don't want him"? Like, what does that mean? And what does the generalization of media mean? That's like generalizing fans. Like, no, the media is not the same. So that's all I'm saying. Like, it's not as simple as, is he better than Nico? It's about where your team is, and where things are in that type of manner. So yeah, that doesn't mean anything. So I just don't get it. I'm not big on Nick Hopkins right now. And I think the league is speaking to Nick Hopkins, because let's be honest. If DeAndre Hopkins had options, he would not be visiting with freaking Bill O'Brien next week. I mean, let's be serious. Come on, bro. Like, if there were a lot of teams that were in the market for DeAndre Hopkins, he's not visiting with effing Bill O'Brien next week.
That is a valid point, although I do think that New England is actually, even if he wouldn't want it in his ideal world, I think it would be a good landing spot for him for a year. I do believe that. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder, like, I know I guess he hired an agent now that he was released, but like, was there some negligence here in the last like 3 months? Because to me, if I'm DeAndre Hopkins and I get released in June, I would have rather been released in February, right? Like, if I'm DeAndre Hopkins,
the timing was a big problem for him.
Yeah, why? Like, that to me should be a bigger story. If I'm DeAndre Hopkins, like, there's some, I understand that the team controls, but like, they're not, I don't even know if they're splitting the salaries. Like, I think they might be taking the hit Arizona all in the 1 year.
Taking 20+ mil.
Yeah. So to me, if that was the end result, they should have found a way. I don't know if it's possible, but they should have forced the issue in February or March to hit the open market when there's way more cap space available. That's a bad job by somebody.
Well, or it's just to screw you. Like, I mean, let's be honest. It almost seems borderline malicious at this point. Are they just like held on to him thinking they could trade him?
I always wonder this, like Dalvin Cook, same thing. I mean, I like, it's Landry. If you're one of these players,
what happened this week to where the Vikings said, you know what, we really got to release Dalvin Cook at this point?
Yeah, I want more discussion on this. Like, these teams aren't waking up at the end of May or early June and saying, you know, here's a great idea. We're going to release Dalvin Cook or we're going to release DeAndre Hopkins. Like, what was going on we haven't had a game with these teams in 5 months. What has been going on here? What is occurring?
I can't answer that.
I know management controls. I get it. But to me, those players would have the incentive to like act out and do all sorts of things to get themselves released.
I don't disagree. Next topic with Meltser. What would be a fireable offense for Nick Caserio? What would be a fireable season for Nick Caserio? Like, what could happen on the field to where you'd be saying, all right, I don't know if this guy might need to go?
I would say if Derek Stingley has a bad year, if the offensive line is well below average, those would be the main things for me. And as far as team performance, I don't know if I would track it to like win-loss record because that can be a little fluky in either direction. But I would say if they keep, because the thing about last year's team was, even though they didn't win many games, they were playing fairly competitive football down the stretch with not a whole lot of talent. Honestly, Landry, I don't know if independent of all of this, if Nick Caserio is going to be here in a year anyway.
Okay, so you're still on that.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I know other people were on that, and I feel like I was on that, and now I am not sure. Like, I don't have a good sense of how wedded the organization is to him and vice versa. I don't have a great feel for that right now. Like, I heard him on Texans radio tonight, and it's like all buddy. He's talking about how, you know, he's out there like working construction or whatever with his grandfather and then going to a baseball game afterwards. And I'm like, Jesus, like, I feel like I'm a failed. This guy, like Nick Caserio is talking about how he woke up at like 7 a.m. to be at a site, like to be at a site, like he's Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. And then at like 5 o'clock, he gets off and he's going to play like Little League. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell am I doing when I was growing up?
I really think the interior of the offensive line is going to be where Caserio is going to be judged.
That's a good one.
The Stingley situation, I think, will be judged. I don't necessarily think CJ is him because I really don't think that he was the one that wanted CJ that much. So I agree. I don't think CJ is kind of his ass. I think a poor play in the interior O-line and Derek Stingley not looking good, and a season in which you end up, and Bryce Young has a good ass year. Like, honestly, like I know it's kind of, but if Bryce Young just has a good ass rookie season, then that's where I could kind of see it. I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I'm just wondering like what could be the worst scenario. I think you kind of laid it out.
Yeah, because the worst, like, you don't want to think about it, but the worst case scenarios involve CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, but I'm not so sure how much Nick Caserio was the driving force behind each guy. And so I don't know that, like, if one guy gets hurt or Stroud struggles, I'm going to blame Nick Caserio for that. So you get to the question of, like, which players on this roster is Nick Caserio most tied in with, has made the biggest declarations on? And off the top of my head, looking at it in front of me, I would say Derek Stingley, Kenyon Green, Nico Collins, Shaq Mason to an extent as well.
To a large extent,
yes. Maybe the free agent signings as well, Dalton Schultz. But yeah, I would say it really begins with the Stingley, the Nico Collins, Kenyon Green, some of those high draft picks that they've had the last couple of years. If those guys had bad seasons or injury-prone seasons, that would reflect poorly on him.
AT says, did Nick lose us the number 1 pick? No, nothing to do with Bryce. Yes, he did. He did not trade Brandon Cooks, and then he had Brandon Cooks on the field. So, yes, he did. I'm trying to move past that, but yes, he absolutely did. Tyler asks, which is more detrimental to Nick, healthy but garbage Stingley or elite but healthy Stingley? Unhealthy Stingley, excuse me.
I would actually say healthy but garbage is worse. Like, if he's healthy and he sucks, then it's a terrible look. Versus if Derek Stingley was an elite player who just kept getting hurt, you would say, okay, well, at least I see why you picked him.
Yeah, but we both agree. You could see him maybe leaving. I think he'll be okay. All right, here's a question for you.
Yes.
What is Dameon Pierce doing 3 years from today? And what are we saying about him?
I think he's a running back. I don't in the league still. I don't know definitively if he's here because I think it's going to be more of a shared burden for the next, year or 2 or 3, which is more ideal. And then, when it comes time for contract time with running backs, as we've seen all across the NFL, it's almost never a good idea to give that guy a second contract. So I don't know that he is I don't think Dameon Pierce is a foundational building block player. And that's not a negative towards him. It's more of a negative towards the position and a little bit of his style because he's so physical.
Yeah, he's so physical. I would say that he is in the NFL and he's a piece of the Texans run game. I don't know. I don't think that we're talking about like an elite back. I think it's a good back. But that style, you have to protect him from that style. I actually put out a video today about that. You have to protect Dameon Pierce from himself, and you have to, some people might say just run him as much as possible and then, on to the next running back. But if you want to maximize Dameon Pierce, you're going to have to I don't think
there's any
nice complimentary piece.
There's no need to squeeze as much as possible on a team. It's not like this is a Super Bowl contender where that might be more incentivized. Not with this team. I think you want to see how long you can ride this. And Landry, you've been on this even before last season ended, really the whole time, that Dameon Pierce in the completely ideal role is somebody who's part of a two-headed running back combination.
Yeah, and my thing with Dameon Pierce is in order to maximize him, everybody's going to have to do their job right. Like Nick Caserio is going to have to provide you with better options than Rex Burkhead. And Bobby Slowick's going to have to be able to balance it. And D'Amico Ryans is going to have to figure something out too. So it's really not just up to one guy. Wow, Jeremy Pena. Good Lord. Astros just blew another 1-run lead. Jeremy Pena tried to go for the unassisted double play, threw it over the first baseman's head. So we're tied at 7. Good.
We are tied at 7.
This ball club.
Maybe it's one of those years.
I hate this team.
Do you hate that phrase? Maybe it's one of those years.
I don't think it's one of those years. I just think it's a natural coming down to earth. I don't even completely judge them for it. I just don't. I'm not having fun watching this team play baseball anymore.
That's a great point. Yes, it has not been much fun. Yes.
Yeah, it's just not very fun. Next question with Mike Meltser on a Fair Friday. Who leads this team in receiving?
Robert Woods.
Okay.
It's hard.
Is it a better year than last year?
Better year than he had last year?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. All right. So Robert Woods in Tennessee last season, the numbers are 53 catches, 527, and 2 touchdowns. I'll say yes. Okay. Now, I don't know if one of those numbers, if he stays healthy, then I'll say yes because – they're going to throw the ball, you imagine, a bunch, especially if they're trailing late in games, and they should have the opportunity to get, 600-700 receiving yards. And with Nico Collins, what I'm not sure about is just, can he stay on the field? If you were to set, I'm sure there might exist in Vegas, but if you had to put betting odds on this, Landry, how would you stack this up? Would it be
I would say
Robert Woods?
Schultz would be the favorite.
Oh, Schultz. Okay.
I would say Schultz would be the favorite because I didn't say wide receiver.
Yeah, okay.
I said who leads the team in receiving.
You did.
I would say Schultz would be the favorite. And then Woods. Then you'd probably have Tank Dell.
It seems like the Tank Dell thing is off to a fun start.
Alex Bregman's wearing his shirt and
did that bother you?
They're foaming at the mouth. No, I mean it's just a lot of hype, man. Like,
what does Alex Bregman know about Tank Dell? Is there some connection there?
I have no idea, but he was rocking his shirt the other day. He said he's going to be a stud. His wife was on the show 2 days ago, and she picked Tank Dell for her celebrity softball or celebrity dodgeball team. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of love with Tank Dell.
I'm excited.
Excited for what?
I'm excited to watch Tank Dell. Genuinely. That's not a bad take.
You have not seen Tank Dell.
I'm intrigued by this guy.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too, for sure.
And this is somebody who that you're going to, because of his size and just what he brings to the offense or could bring to the offense, like Bobby Slowick, assuming Tank Dell's healthy. This is my big thing with rookies is get through training camp, be out there every day, get yourself healthy. That's a huge thing. But if he does that, you need to game plan to make sure that he gets the football. Because how many players on this offense in general are explosive? Explosive. Who is explosive on this offense? I would say Pierce is in a way because he has but
he did have that long run last year.
Yeah, like he can with his style, he can create some explosive plays, even though he's not like he's not Barry Sanders, obviously. There are a lot of limited players on this offense, a lot of limited players at the skill positions. That's what makes Tank Dell unique.
I would say Tank's the only one. As far as like explosive.
Yeah.
Potentially. Next question. This is a what if, and I am very excited for this one. What if they had brought back Lovie Smith for year 2? What would Mike Meltser be saying right now?
I mean, well, what I'd be saying is, please, for the love of God, lose about 16 games this upcoming season. That's what I'd be saying. Now, because the unknown part of that is if they had brought back Lovie Smith, who would the quarterback be?
Oh, God.
Could you imagine that?
I mean, that was the Ross Tucker thing, was you can't have a rookie quarterback with Lovie Smith. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
Can't do that. That was the Ross Tucker where he said he thought Lovie was one and done. A lot of people thought he was crazy. If Lovie Smith were back, I don't know if I would still be doing this channel.
Because it would be a continuation.
I wouldn't leave. I'm not one of those people that would like leave and stop like doing this, but I would. It would be hard.
That would be hard. Yes, that would be
hard
to do this. Yeah, this would be tough because it would be so depressing.
DeMeco is a big reason for the excitement, and it's not just
100%.
And I think there's a lot of layers to it. There's the obvious connections, but there's obviously like you got a coach who a lot of people wanted. And I think that adds like some substance, and that adds some credibility, some excitement, some feel that something is being accomplished, whether you have a good season or not, to where that guy's still going to be there. And when you have like a David Culley or a Lovie Smith, you just kind of feel like you're helpless.
Yes.
And last year it got really helpless, especially the grumpier got, the crabbier got, the badder the worse they played. I don't know if I'd be able to handle that.
Yeah, that would be rough. I thought last season, like the low point, the nadir, if you will, was like the whole him being angry, then benching Davis Mills, even though like it actually did kind of feel like it kind of felt like he was bullied into benching Davis Mills by people like us.
Rebellious, and then he was talking about, I don't want to say it because there's an advantage, and then it leaked like 4 minutes later.
What a mess. Those 3 weeks were like I thought things got better late in the season because they were playing like okay football and the games were kind of interesting. But that like Miami, Kyle Allen, Davis Mills, that was a nightmare.
All right. So do you think though that like much like, because your favorite thing to F with me with, and in your defense, like you like to F with me about a lot of things. Like you really know how to push my buttons, asshole. Whether
Am I
it's
that
just
good
like
at
a
that?
random
God.
text or something. Nah, but it's
Yeah.
funny because
I'm telling you guys.
I like to push yours too. You're one of my best friends.
You do.
So
Yes.
I get it. But the one thing you really like to push my buttons about is James Click and the Astros and how disrespectful you felt.
Yes. I was thinking about that driving to work this morning. Yes.
You think about it all the time. But much like you think James Click is vindicated by what happened with Jeff Bagwell, do you think David Culley watching Lovie Smith said, you know what? I wasn't that bad of a coach anyway, after all?
That would be a real stretch if I'm David Culley. Like he's got to be.
Let me ask you this, and I want to ask the people this in the comments. You're gonna laugh your ass off at this, or you're gonna have to think. You have to pick one coach to coach the Texans this year. You picking David Culley or Lovie Smith? Everything else is the same. You get to keep the staff. You get to keep everything. The rest of the staff is the same. The rest of the players are the same. Are you picking Lovie Smith or David Culley? For me, it's David Culley, no doubt, because he's just going to let everyone else do their job. He's not going to try to get in there and try to tell Matt Burke or whatever how to call the defense. I would say David Culley, no doubt.
You know what? Because of the rookie quarterback, and I like Slowick, I'm going to say David Culley. Because there's no opportunity for Lovie to do his weird nonsense. Because these games with these young players are actually going to matter, win or lose. The development is critical. I'd probably go with David Culley too. I would go with David Culley.
So
I still can't. I still can't believe that whole press conference last year and the whole. God, what a nightmare!
Which one?
Like
there was a few.
Which one? There were a few. The one where they introduced Lovie. Like and honestly, there's obviously
been a good press conference though. I will give them that.
It was a good press conference.
They say face.
There's been a lot of discussion and controversy over the Will Anderson trade. But the thing I keep coming back to, even though I don't love the negotiation there, is this team. I tweeted this at the time when they hired D'Amico. It feels like this team was not in the NFL the last 2 years. It feels like this. Like I've seen bad football. Anyone who knows me knows I've cheered for a lot of bad football. I know that. I know bad football. It's one of my areas of expertise. But this last 2 years has been like on a totally different stratosphere, essentially.
Oh, no doubt. Totally different stratosphere. Big time. Next question. What would it look like and what would the mood be with a coach not named D'Amico Ryans?
This is a great question.
Any of the coaches that were available.
Yes.
Let's just go through each of the top candidates and talk about what it would look like right now.
Yes. I'm looking at the guys who they interviewed. Yes, go ahead.
So let's say Sean Payton.
Excitement. Did I go too quickly? Why did I go so fast?
You sure?
I think people would now. You would have had to give up.
You would have had to give up. You would have had to give up 12. So you would have given up 12 and not had Will Anderson to show for it.
Yes. I think fans, and I don't say this in a bad way because this is how fans should be. There's the inertia, the pull towards things are going to be okay, unless, especially when you hire somebody, and you hire somebody who's won a Super Bowl. I think people would have convinced themselves to be excited with Sean Payton, and from what I can tell in Denver, like he's going to lay down the law. And I mean, Sean's always been a very good coach. It's just, does he still have it? Do you wonder about the motivation, that sort of thing?
I don't think he does. I don't think he has it. I think it would have been expensive. I think it would have been a buzzkill.
Okay.
But I guess you could sell yourself on Sean Payton. So decent excitement. I don't think it would be as high as D'Amico, though.
Oh, no. I do not think it would be as high as D'Amico.
All right. What if they would have hired Shane Steichen?
I think people would have convinced themselves on him, absolutely, especially paired with a young quarterback. Not quite to the D'Amico level, but I think people would kind of be probably where they are in Indianapolis. Like, hey, this guy coached the second best offense or the second best team in the NFL. He was the OC. He can, work with different guys. He was in LA, San Diego before.
All right. What about Jonathan Gannon? I think that would have been, I think Caserio would be the most hated guy in town.
You know what's funny about that? So it seemed like last season, Nick Caserio wanted to hire Jonathan Gannon, and he was prevented from doing so. And I felt bad for Nick that way. This Jonathan Gannon thing seems like a clown show. Now, I realize that Arizona, Landry, is trying to lose. I get that. But this thing looks very strange. What's going on over there? I do not trust it.
Yeah, and what was really weird was that video. Like, as much as people talk about how cool that video was where they showed Monty Ossenfort making the trades and everything.
Yep.
What was Jonathan Gannon doing? Did he win a fan package at a silent auction or something like that? He was just like, wow. Like, he didn't even seem like he was involved and knew what was going on.
Yeah.
He was just sitting there and just goes, wow. Like, he's not even involved or anything. I think Gannon would have been looked at as like, this is what Caserio wanted to do, and this is where we're at. I think that would have been disaster. I also think Gannon's in a weird place because Mike Florio, for whatever reason, has him on his bleep list, and he hates him more than anyone in the world. They're not trying to win. So there's a chance that they go, I don't know, 1-16 this year or 2-15. And all of a sudden he's getting crapped out. Not sure what that has to do with the Texans, but I don't think that would have been a vibe. What about Kafka? Because I thought Kafka had a legit chance. I actually believe that Kafka was there too. I'm not pulling that out of my ass. I think they liked Kafka. I think they were impressed with Kafka when they talked to him. What if they had decided to go with Kafka?
I think similar to Shane Steichen, maybe because you've been high on Mike Kafka and you have a pull in this city and you could have gotten people behind him. I think there would be a decent buzz around Mike Kafka. Again, nothing is going to compare to what it is now with D'Amico Ryans for obvious reasons, him being drafted here and playing here. But offensive mind, he is from the Andy Reid tree. He did a good job with the Giants. I think people would have absolutely convinced themselves on Mike Kafka. Yes. Yeah. For me, Kafka and Steichen are very similar in this analysis.
All right, next question. Which team in the division could you not see winning the whole thing? NFL is an unpredictable league. You see teams go from worst to first all the time. Is there any team in this division that you can completely dismiss and say they have zero chance of winning the division? And is it the Houston Texans?
I would say zero is a pretty high bar. I'm having a hard time seeing Indy or Houston win this division.
Are you really having that hard of a time with Indy? Because I don't think –
yes.
I think Anthony Richardson is actually in the perfect place to succeed.
Hold on. Weren't you the same person who was saying you would like drive a limo to get him to Indianapolis to the press conference?
I would. And I think long term, I don't think Anthony Richardson is going to be the guy. But I think in the short term, with getting Jonathan Taylor back, getting Darius Leonard back, maybe they could get in a situation where they play some yuck up football. I think he's in the best position. I don't think – let me put it this way. I don't think that the Indianapolis Colts are a true drafting in the top 5 and taking a quarterback team. I think that's a better roster than typically what you see in the top 5. So I think just based on that alone and based on the head coach that they hired, I think he's in the best position to succeed. And I think with competent quarterback play last year, they could have been a hell of a lot more competitive. Now, I don't know if he's going to be competent. It's probably going to look ugly and a little bit different. But my point is, I could see a scenario where that happens. Like if you tell me, try to look at an NFL season where someone comes like the Giants last year. Like, could I see them minimizing Anthony Richardson and maximizing their run game and defense playing better? I could see it. I could see Jacksonville. I could see the Titans. I can't see the Texans at the moment. And I'm not saying that because, I don't have optimism. I don't know what Bobby Slowick is. And until I know what Bobby Slowick is, I can't just I know what I would like for it to look like. I know what you would like for the offense to look like, but I think the one team that I would probably be able to dismiss would be the Texans, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think that's a very viable point. For what it's worth, I was looking at FanDuel, the latest odds. They have the Texans and Indianapolis right now, both at over under 6.5, whereas Tennessee is at 7.5 on the win total. Tennessee, I know a bunch of people on the chat when you asked the question, who could you not see winning the division, immediately said Tennessee. They still have talent. They have one of the best players in the division in Jeffrey Simmons, and more importantly, they have
two of the best players in the division in Jeffrey Simmons and Derrick Henry if he's healthy. That's two of the top 5.
And they
Maybe
have
two of the top 3. Like honestly, they got two of the, like, if healthy, they have two of the top 3 players in the division, both of which can single-handedly win games themselves.
They have the best coach in the division who constantly has them playing above their talent level. And keep in mind, Tennessee last year went 7-10. But Landry, that 7-10 is they ended the season on a 7-game losing streak
without Ryan Tannehill. So
yes,
I see people saying like of all the scenarios that I think are just getting dismissed way too easily, I think the notion that Tennessee can't yuck it up for a year and win the division with Ryan Tannehill and a healthy Derrick Henry, and look, there's a lot of ifs. I think that's a little bit silly. I could easily see Tennessee winning the division. Now, if we're talking about how high their ceiling is and we're talking about actually building something, they're by far at the bottom. Like if we're power ranking like teams like 3-year plans, Tennessee's at the bottom. Like there's no 3-year plan. There's no like core outside of Simmons that you look at that's even going to be there in a few years. But if you're looking at just like the 1-year plan of what they're doing, they're very capable. Like 5-1, I think was what I saw them like potentially winning this division. They should have won it last year. I can't completely dismiss it.
I cannot either. This actually reminds me, you asked me to provide you with some takes, and I forgot to give you this one. I feel bad.
Astros just blew another 1-run lead.
Yeah. I feel bad for Will Levis because I don't think OTA performance.
JJ Watt?
I don't think OTA performances should be scrutinized like this.
Well, what about hyped up though? Like it works both ways.
Yeah, to me, like
it works both ways. Like Anthony Richardson's getting hyped up for it. CJ's getting gassed up for it. Like it works both ways. I mean, and we are talking about, and this is why I don't feel sorry for that weasel, that douchebag. I mean, we are talking about a guy who puts Instagram videos up of him throwing from his knee at the 50. Like that shouldn't be hyped up either, but he's out there clout chasing there. So I don't specifically feel bad for him.
So I understand that the NFL is more of a year-round sport, but I mean, I grew up watching football since like the mid-90s. Like OTAs, when we're talking about like we're tracking the performances of individual players and units, especially when it's guys who are really young, who are rookies. I don't know. I don't like training camp's one thing because training camp is there to prepare for the start of the season. And in training camp, like if a guy's dominating, he's out there every day and he's clearly one of the best players who's a young guy who's promising, like that's a big storyline. But to me, OTAs, like I just don't think it's near the same thing. I don't think so. So I have a lot of questions about Will Levis, the prospect, but I do objectively feel bad for him getting criticized for not performing well in OTAs. To me, OTA should be a judgment-free zone as far as when guys are struggling.
Well, what if you get excited about it? It works.
Then I think that's allowed. That's my new take.
Just stay positive.
Yeah. I think OTA should only be for positive reinforcements. That is my new take.
What do the B.O.B. and D-Hop discussions next week look like? What does it look like when Bill O'Brien talks to DeAndre Hopkins? So
the thing about Bill O'Brien, despite some of the angry things I've said about Bill on Twitter or via platforms like this or on the radio, I actually enjoy Bill O'Brien like the human being.
I do too, big time.
Yeah,
like,
and I think
he's not as thin-skinned like when he's not around other people.
Yeah, like I think you and I right now could like drive somewhere in Houston, have a beer with Bill O'Brien, and we would have a good time. So I think Bill would handle it fine. He's a professional, and it's a different circumstance. They seem to like O'Brien, and I have my questions about his scheme, but boy, he is entering into a great situation in the sense of like, God, everything was awful last year. They had an unqualified group of offensive coordinators.
He's Bill Walsh that just woke from the dead. Like,
I'm sure that
Patricia and Judge overseeing the offense. I mean, they're talking about him like he's like the second coming.
Yes. It's a very friendly environment for him because their offense was so bad and so mismanaged that if things just look normal this season, O'Brien's going to get a lot of kudos for that. And so I think Bill would, sit across from DeAndre and basically point out like the opportunities available that when you look at New England, they're still, I still think are one of the best coach teams in football. They had a good defense last year. They got Juju, they got Gesicki, and I think the selling point is, hey, Mac Jones was in a weird spot last year. He's a good quarterback. He's going to get better. He's accurate. He'll get you the football. He's worked with receivers like you in the past. We have a good running back. I know the division is tough, but like we beat the Jets all the time. We're competitive with these guys. You're somebody who can really help our young quarterback. I will make sure you get the football.
Yeah, and I mean that he's going to have the full attention of the room. Like anyone who was there last year is just going to idolize him at this point.
Yep.
So I think he's in pretty good shape. B.O.B. All right, we're going to play a game now. It's called Fair or Not. Yes. It is a game in which I ask you a question and you say whether it's fair or not fair.
Yes.
And I'm going to start with my hating. I did this today on the show. Figgy and B. Scott were very offended by this. I went through the NFL and I said receivers I would rather have than DeAndre Hopkins this year. And I want you to tell me if this is fair or not. And this is just going to be an on-the-go exercise. This is a 1 year. This is a 1 year thing. So I'm not talking about for the future. We're not playing like a fantasy draft, but like for a 1 year thing for the Houston Texans, receivers that I would rather have than DeAndre Hopkins. And I want you to tell me if it's fair or not. The over-nuke exercise. And at the end, we will tally how many guys we come to. All right, so I'm going to say Trevon Diggs, yes. Fair or not?
Stephon Diggs, you mean?
Stephon Diggs, not Trevon, excuse me. Stephon Diggs.
Fair.
Tyreek Hill.
Fair.
Jalen Waddle.
Fair.
Garrett Wilson.
Fair.
CD Lamb.
Fair.
Devontae Smith.
Fair.
AJ Brown.
Fair.
Scary Terry.
Fair.
McLaurin.
Fair.
Jamar Chase.
Fair.
T. Higgins.
That one.
They're kind of he can line up on the outside though more.
I'll say fair. Everyone's going to take T. People will take T. Higgins.
Nuke's more in the slot. I mean, he can line up the slot. I won't say Deontay Johnson with Pittsburgh. I'll leave that one alone.
No, I would say no on him. He drops the ball too much.
I would say no on DJ Moore in Chicago.
I'll say no because I know like Adam Shine thinks he's going to have like 2,000 receiving yards with Fields, but I need to see that pan out before I go in that direction. I need to see the idealized production actually happen with him.
All right, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Fair.
Jefferson.
Fair.
I didn't even know
it took me a second, but that was not due to the question there.
Michael Pittman Jr.
Fair.
Christian Kirk. This was.
I would take Hopkins actually. Unfair.
Okay. So you're with Fig. Mike Evans.
Fair. Still a really good player.
Devontae Adams.
Fair.
Keenan Allen. It's close. That's close. It's kind of similar.
I'd probably go Hopkins actually. I would go Hopkins. I think he'll stay healthier.
Yeah, and no Mike Williams for the same reasons.
Yeah, I'll say no Mike Williams.
Cooper Kupp.
Fair. Coming off injury.
Okay, so we're at Cooper. Deebo Samuel.
Fair.
Brandon Ayuk.
Fair. I went a little quick on Ayuk actually. I mean,
DK Metcalf.
Fair. Ayuk I might take back. That's kind of that's a hard one. You know, I mean, if you told me that someone had a great season this year
for the Texans, like so, I mean, he knows the system. He knows the system.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with it.
Yes.
DK Metcalf, yes.
Tyler Lockett.
I'll go with Hopkins. Actually, unfair.
All right, so 19. So we got 19 receivers there.
Yeah.
So top 20 receiver. I think that's fair.
That's the range. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fair or not, Calvin Ridley is already a top 5 receiver in the division without seeing him play.
Okay, let me think about this.
Your mind's gonna be blown when you list the best receivers in this division. You're gonna really say, whoa.
Yeah. All right. So Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman.
All right. Now it's gonna get hard for you.
See, now it's gonna get hard because I know Tennessee's receiving core is awful. All right. Would I take anybody over? Would I take Treylon Burks over Calvin Ridley? I mean, if I had to bet on an asset in a vacuum, are you asking me like if I had to like just build a football team, or you mean for this season? Because if I was a GM of like a brand new team X, I would take this season. I would take Ridley. Okay. All right. So Pittman, Kirk is 2. There's nobody in the Texans I would take over. God. I kind of like Alec Pierce. I like him. Oh God.
Okay, you're putting Alec Pierce. Like, let's be serious. You're joking about that.
I do like Alec Pierce. You know what? Calvin Ridley. Stop. You know what? You're right. Yeah. You're right. Can't argue with it. Cannot.
So fair.
Fair.
Jeff Bagwell should have his jersey moved down to at least the 200 section. I know normally, like right now at the juice box, they got Jeff Bagwell's jersey like all the way at the top. Because of his GM work and because of his blow hard, I played the game attitude, his number 5 should be in the 200 section, a little bit lower. It shouldn't be as high as it once was.
Very fair. Absolutely. And just to add on to that, something I was thinking about, Landry, tell me if you agree or disagree. I am a big process guy. And what I mean by that is I'm a big fan of like, you can make good decisions, bad decisions, but a lot of times you're making decisions based on what you know at the time. The flaw to me was Jim Crane acting like, well, hey, because I, hired James Click quickly a couple of years ago, I'm going to take my time and take forever. I'll put it this way. If they hired Dana Brown in November and he made the Jose Abreu signing, or if they kept James Click and he made the Abreu signing, I would be critical of both. But I honestly, Landry, maybe this is unfair, I would not be as critical as I am now because this was a haphazard way to run a championship team. The process itself was flawed. Even if the other like real baseball analytical people would have come to the same conclusion, the process was flawed, and you can control the process. Some of the results you can't always control.
Yeah, I just think it was just the whole thing was effing weird, bro. Like you had Jeff Bagwell, basically he went and got nicer clothes. He put on like a suit that clearly wasn't tailored, and he shaved a little bit, and he was going around like talking about analytics and like balance and all that. And then he was like making all these signings. It was so weird.
Why did
we thought Brad Osmus was going to be the GM, dude.
Oh my God.
Like we thought Brad Osmus was going to be the GM of the freaking Houston Astros.
Yes.
And fortunately it didn't end up happening, but I've never seen that much damage done in that short of a time. Yeah, like, I mean, honestly, like the fact that Jack Easterby just shut the hell up and didn't make any moves when he was like the GM for 6 months. I know the damage behind the scenes was more so like the damage that like if Jack Easterby had done if Jack Easterby during his time as interim GM and he had a lot of pull with BOB, but if during his time as GM, if he had done what Jeff Bagwell did, good God, I don't know what would have happened.
You think about it this way, like it's not like, and I know it's a Texans YouTube, but like this stuff is all related because we've seen the Texans with their own flaws in decision making organizationally. It's not as if Jim Crane woke up one day and was like, "Hey, I don't really trust this James Click guy. We won the World Series. I'm going to offer him a lousy 1-year deal." This was not like something that came out of nowhere, especially because Jim was in control of this, and so you could have. I think interviewing people behind the scenes would have been super dangerous in that situation for obvious reasons, but you could have been compiling a list to be ready once you essentially let go of your GM to start the interview process. Like that, the whole thing just like they might be where they are anyway right now, but the process was just ridiculously flawed. It did not make any sense. And maybe this is wrong to say. I probably shouldn't say this, but like, because I want the Astros to do well and I want them to keep winning and all that. But like I have to say, the kind of people who like are big Jeff Bagwell fans and say things like, let's make him the hitting coach because he was such a great hitter. There's a part of me that feels like they deserve what's happening and they deserve the way that Jose Abreu's played, because it's like it's to be bludgeoned into their heads how wrong these opinions were. That is how I feel.
Yeah, he basically thought he could do everything. Like,
yes,
he made moves and then he's out there like teaching him how to hit and stuff and like making it sound like it's simple. Fair or not, the Jags are overrated right now.
They might be a little overrated, but man, Landry, they were basically a fumble in the red zone away from really putting a scare into Kansas City in that divisional round game. And I like their coach. They're probably overrated in the same exact way the Lions are, even though Detroit didn't accomplish as much. Young, up-and-coming team that did something the previous year. Therefore, we're going to say they did this. Now they're going to do this the next season. Those teams at this point are almost inherently overrated, but I believe in the quarterback, right? I mean, one thing I forgot to make this point, we were going through the division, but with the question about like who could you not see winning that division? If I'm hosting a show in Jacksonville, I'm basically saying, listen, I don't care what the hell happens this season. As long as number 16 is out there for nearly every single game, there is 0.0.0 excuse for not winning this lousy division. Like, if Trevor Lawrence is out there, I don't care who else is out there, they have to win this division. Are they, a real contender at the top of the AFC? I am not sure. They need Calvin Ridley to pan out. They need the defense and the young guys to continue to get better. But they yes, they're probably a little overrated, but they finished the season very well. Like, that was a dangerous game they played with Kansas City, if you look back at that playoff game.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't win the division if Tennessee doesn't lose Ryan Tannehill.
That's true. And in that game, by the way, you had a kind of like a 50-50 fumble return for a touchdown call that could have gone either direction that went in the favor of Jacksonville. I'm excited tonight. It's a good Friday.
It's a hell of a Friday.
It's a hell of a Friday.
Fair or foul. Jack Easterby is the biggest scumbag in Houston sports history. The Astros just blew another one-run lead. There we go.
Another one. See, I have this streaming, but it's like in delay. I don't think I'm even caught up to where you are.
Since we've been on.
I think it is 4.
So there we go. Another one.
Gosh. Yeah, this is fair. I was texting with somebody earlier today who was complaining that there was not enough of a reckoning in Houston over the Jack Easterby era, that they have turned the page too quickly, and there was not enough of a reckoning for how bizarre this was.
I know, but it was just like so weird that you try to turn the page as best you can. You know me, I was kind of the one that was really like exposing the BS that the dude was doing.
Yeah, this goes right on top of your resume.
I don't get enough credit for how much
correct
how much I did. I really don't.
You do not. You're 100% right.
Like, people putting out like bullshit reports about, Lovey did this and that. Like, if they only knew, man, like how much
listen,
like us talking like really like mattered and stuff like that. It really mattered.
Landry, you are Bob Woodward, and Jack Easterby is Richard Nixon.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. They don't get it.
They just don't get it. They just don't understand.
When do you think? What is the over under on when he gets another
never
job? I'm talking about I'm talking about like a job as a W-2 employee. Or a consultant.
I think he's getting a lot of money right now, man. Like, I don't think he necessarily needs it. I'm not sure. But in the NFL, no.
No, not in the NFL. That just cannot happen.
In the NFL, will not happen. For sure. People are saying Bud Adams. I don't think Bud Adams is close to Jack Easterby. Like, Bud Adams actually did some good.
Now, we're probably of the wrong
but he did
generation.
But he did some good. Like Jack Easterby did nothing good. Like he literally did nothing good.
Yeah, there's no
My
positive
favorite thing. I was talking about the DeAndre Hopkins thing with the Easterby thing. I saw like multiple text messages from Easterby to media types where when Nuke got Astros lose, when Nuke got popped for PEDs, Easterby was like doing like victory laps, talking about the trade.
Yes.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
The hell is that?
That's a bad job.
Very bad job. Very bad job. Rob says he misses Easterby. He's lying. Doesn't mean that. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Meltzy, what are you getting into this weekend? You getting in trouble?
What am I getting into this weekend? Going to the pool tomorrow.
What pool? Like a club pool? Are you going to a douchebag pool?
No. Just hanging out with friends pool.
Okay.
I
thought you were like trying to go to one of these parties or something.
No, I've actually been interested. I've been looking to buy a house, so I'll just announce that.
I closed today.
Oh, congratulations!
I'm actually about to make a trip, so I'm making trips. We got movers coming Sunday.
Excellent.
So we got to be out of here by Monday.
I look forward to the invite. No, so I'm doing some house shopping on Sunday. It's been fun. It's been interesting. It taps into all the things that are weaknesses of mine, like making long-term commitments. really a mental mind bleep for me. It's a whole thing. Yeah. It's a whole thing. Everybody I know is like my therapist now.
That's always been the case, though, sir.
Yes.
That's always been the case.
Yes. I had a good time.
Well, good for you, man. Well, I appreciate you, brother. I'll talk to you this weekend. I'm gonna go move, bro.
Good luck.
I'll holler at you.
Sounds good.
All right. There we go. Great Mike Meltser here in the locker room. Subscribe, like, right along. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. No matter what happens when it comes to this Texans stuff, we are all in this together. Appreciate everyone for coming through.
Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room.